Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And for Ichor Fall 2018, we're doing Ichor Fall stories, such as OSD09-H03 and Aware, both by Kris Straub, and can be found in the Visitor's Guide of Ichor Falls or on his website, Ichor Falls, A Quiet Community. So we'll go into a rundown of OSD09-H03. It is basically a computer program observing a child as the child asks, what do they have to eat? Presumably like talking to somebody. And the computer goes through a bunch of different subroutines and programs to simulate a fatherly figure on a screen, using like a photo mapped onto a model, and then like using enough distortion to make it less like uncanny valley, and simulating the voice from different like samples they have. And basically, it's kind of like alluded to that like. It's kind of alluded to that the father is like overseas, and like the government is using this, like doing this experiment on like to try and trick children who have parents overseas that may or may not be dead, that the into believing that they are actually talking to their parents, because kids usually need some kind of like comfort, like need to want to talk to their parents when they're away from each other. And that's kind of how the story goes and ends. Is it just we just kind of like visit this scene of like this computer like simulating the father figure to this child, and saying that they have like all kinds of food here, including pizza. You like pizza, right? And then it kind of goes on from there and ends. It's just a brief kind of window into this situation. So, and that's it. So,
I mean, you say it's relatively brief. It goes for like
it's
multiple paragraphs explaining just the simple quote unquote simple, the simple concept of just responding to the kid's answer with all the things that the computer has to go through in its mind to go, okay, I need to answer it this way and I have to take this into account.
Yeah. And it really is more like, I feel like it's more just like utilizing like this creepy, like the creepiness from it is more or less like what's actually happening, or like it's like not what's happening, like not exactly the basically the act of what, like kind of like the you kind of get the creepiness from like what you realize is happening here more than what's actually happening here. Does that make sense?
The setting is creepy. What's happening in the setting is
fairly normal, or not normal, but is fairly mundane in terms of what's happening. But like the reason it's happening is more creepy than what's actually presented. But yeah, so I guess we'll go into rundowns or into rundowns. Wow.
You can run it down.
Yeah, let's run down and get down.
I have my own specific rundown. I can run it down.
Do you actually have your own rundown?
Yeah, I don't need to do it though. Okay. You just did it.
Cool. Was mine on par with yours, or
it was adequate?
but was yours short and to the point? We've been over this.
I feel like mine was pretty short and to the point.
It's fine.
All right. Anyway, so grammar inquisitions, because everyone expects them at this point. Then poring over a harsh table. Poring, verb, to carefully read over a book and document. I kind of learned a word today because I didn't realize that was how you used pouring, or like that was the word that you used for like pouring over like things, like something rather than like the other one. Just like a minor, like I was just like, oh yeah, I guess there is a different word for that. Then my positivity goes away when we get to the file is equalized to include a bassy sub-audio component at 180 hertz. I think it is sub-audio, like sub-audio doesn't. I don't think it's actually supposed to be sub-audio, like one word.
Probably not, because that seems to be a way to use sub. It's like a sub something, and it's separated usually. But again, did you Google it?
Yeah.
Oh, well then, yeah. I was gonna say if you didn't Google it, if you didn't Google it, then who the fuck knows? But if you Googled it, then
I Google whenever like I have whenever there's a word that like is that actually how it's supposed to be? I'll like go on Google. It's like, is this actually how it's supposed to be? And then the next one is taken years ago when he was first deployed is overlaid onto a digital model. So overlaid is actually spelled wrong. It's not overlayered. It was overlaid as in like overplaced. Like so it's OVERLAID, not laid as in like LAYED. Really nitpicky.
Yeah.
But it's just
I mean that's what
we're doing, Grammar Inquisitions.
That's their purpose.
Yeah.
We're doing a soft round of editing.
Yeah. And that's that's honestly my Grammar Inquisitions. So Mikey, these things for you.
I have none.
Gabriel, no.
I have none.
Cool. I was in the nitpick nook today.
Yep.
It's all you.
All by yourself, yeah.
It's so comfy back here.
It won't be for long.
Actual thoughts. So, use this quote here. Originally, the Department of Defense had planned to include hands so the model could gesture, but this was abandoned early due to overcomplexity. So, on top of being America's most haunted town, Ichor Falls also has deep military secrets. It just sort of deviates from the collection's themes and patterns.
Not necessarily.
However, but then I read this, and this is what gave me a revelation. A series of static simulating filters create webcam believability, in quotes, and reduce Morian's uncanny valley effect, which children have been shown to be particularly sensitive to. Once it was understood that they wanted to believe, the goal became to give them less visual fidelity, not more. Actually, so this is my revelation. Is this story a hint of Candle Cove's true origin? Like, is this a similar program that was than what the kids recall back in the 70s and 80s with their little pirate show that was actually static? One of the bigger theories of Candle Cove is that it's some kind of mass hallucination. But what if this is hinting at Candle Cove being a government subliminal program based somewhere around Ichor Falls? Because to me, as I was reading this one, I was like, all the other stories in the collection have been ghost related or supernaturally related or that kind of like. And Candle Cove is not really is kind of an outlier a little bit, but not by much, because it's open ended. But what if there's a reason why this story is actually in the collection, aside from just Kris Straub just happened to have this story in his repertoire and decided to add it to the collection? What if this story was added as a hint to what the actual origin of Candle Cove was, and that it was some kind of like subliminal messaging system, program in the 70s or 80s that the government was using, and this is like basically the upgraded version of that. I could be looking really deep and like really far, stretching into that, but like it was kind of like is there actually a reason why this one's like breaks the mold a little bit for the collection? Because personally, sorry.
I just said I could see it.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
It's just like, because it just feels like personally, like when I was reading, I was like, why is this in I was trying to remember, like, it's like all the other stories have a tie to Ichor Falls to a degree, or like have a supernatural theme, except for this one. And so I was like trying to figure out like why, like, is there like, other than again Kris Straub just having like this was included in his stories that he had written up to that point and then like put them into a collection. I just was trying to figure out, like, is this like actually like some kind of like, is there a deeper meaning to why this story was in the collection? And again, I could be just drawing at like finding like basically like looking at like echoes of like nothing.
It's entirely possible,
but
I mean, it works.
Yeah,
what a revelation!
Yeah,
indeed. I'm holding a coffee, otherwise I would go full.
What a revelation!
There you go. You can do it for me. There you go. Yeah, it's necessary.
It's just like I was like reading it. I was just like, huh. Oh. Because also West Virginia. Again, I could be a little bit off, but I think that like there's a lot of like military like facilities and stuff of that in West Virginia.
It doesn't matter because Ichor Falls has a lot of creepiness in it.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that the SNTF would set up a base here. And and need
For the audience at home, I rolled my eyes so hard, my head went back.
Yeah, it fell off the back of the couch. I'm going to have to pick that up in a minute.
Yeah.
But, yeah, because any children that are grief-stricken through the supernatural means that are here, they are creating this program to help deal with grief. And,
Candle Cove was like, you have to go in. I was like, you have to go inside, don't you know? Because that's actually the voice that they describe the laughingstock having when.
I don't remember. What did they describe it as?
Okay, so the laughingstock.
I mean, you just did it.
Yeah, it's the Mad Hatter from the original Disney cartoons or the Disney movies. Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, okay.
It's that guy's voice. I think he was also Red Skeleton, but I can't remember.
Either way,
but yeah, it's that like you have to like he has like that like have to like. Yeah, we're having a very birthday, like that kind of almost like broken, that's like puberty kind of thing. And he's like, "Don't you know?" So
a grown ass man that still has puberty breaking voice.
Yeah, or at least that's like what he uses for that voice. But yeah, like people like in the little forum thread thing that is the Kendall Cove story, they describe him having that kind of the laughingstock having that kind of voice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. That's actually my actual thought for the story. It was kind of just like, it ended there because I was like, whoa. Potential. Whoa.
Yes.
But, Mikey, these things are real.
I have a question. Did you follow the link at the end?
I actually did read it.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
There was a link?
It's really... Okay, so it just goes to a Boing Boing news article. Boing Boing is an internet news, or like tech, or... It's an article website. I'm not exactly sure I think it's news.
Yeah.
But fringe news and stuff like that, or weird news stuff. But it was basically like how the Department of Defense wanted to create basically parent bots for children with kids overseas. Like, it's basically like the plot of the story, like that, because he drew inspiration from it. But he made it more like integral. Like they're actually like putting a simulated like face to it, whereas this one's more just like a chat bot. Talking to children with parents that are overseas, and I think I remember it like leaving off like the article like left off. It was a very short article, but it left off with basically it's like the only downside is that you got to pay like the parents later on had to pay a shit ton of money in therapy because they realized they were talking to when they thought they were saying "I love you, Daddy," it was actually a chatbot.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, and I can understand why Kris Straub wanted to was inspired by that because that is a fucked up idea.
Yeah, like I don't understand why they would do that because if this is in a year where there is like instant messaging, why can't the child actually instant message with their parent overseas?
Maybe they weren't in an area or they weren't. Maybe they were on a mission or something like that or something, so they couldn't get a decent signal. Mm-hmm. This was, I think, the article was out in 2009, I think.
Mm-hmm. Unless they can't get to a computer in the span of a month or more.
Which is...
Which I guess is...
Yeah, the time zone differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they're out in a third world country, again in the Gulf, in somewhere in the Gulf or something like that, they might not have decent signal everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or the kid's dad is a secret agent. He has to stay.
Exactly. Or they had to be undercover and stuff like that. So in order to appease, so to keep the kids from losing or having being traumatized from lack of attention with their parents, they created they were interested in developing something to alleviate that in the patch it up basically short term. Because again, it's kind of fucked up if you realize that you've been saying "I love you, Dad" to a fucking program. That has been more nurturing than your actual father because he's been off in some mission or your mother in some mission somewhere. Or what if they died? They were killed in action, and they do this for a little bit to wean them off.
Okay, that's the most fucked up.
That's
part.
fucked up.
That is totally fucked up.
Yeah, that is completely fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I get. I mean by the story, it's creepy in. The implications of the story are creepy than the actual what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, to answer your question, Monkey, yes, I did check out the link to...
Oh, right. Why did we do that?
I don't know, man.
You always bring up way more interesting things than we bring up. Because me and Cultus are like, hey, this is the thing. And we're like, yeah. Okay, the next is... Okay. We're not as interesting as you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mikey. D stands for evil.
E stands for effort as well.
I suppose.
Yeah. And you've covered my notes, so...
Oh, really?
Yep.
Sorry.
It's alright, it was bound to happen eventually.
Okay.
But you still had one. You still had one. It's not like you had nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was... Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
We're becoming evil, apparently.
Yeah. Oh god, he's corrupting us!
Yeah!
So yeah, anyway, Gamer Now.
Alright. Let me see.
And the father could also be a secret agent in northern Canada. Because, I mean, he's shit kind of luck for internet there.
Oh yeah, no, Canada's like, yeah, we are practically no, we're not. But we are practically like in the like a non-civilization at this point because like we don't even have a stable internet Wi-Fi like coverage system.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to like hook those up through our igloos, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's just a lot of hassle.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you betcha.
What's that about?
I know, really, right? Like
we're Canadian, by the way, listeners.
How? No, anyways.
And we're on to your secret agents.
Something to go here.
I gotta go, guys.
We're gonna build a wall, eh?
Oh yeah.
Topical. Kind of.
It'll be a giant bacon weave.
A giant bacon.
Yeah, and we'll have to...
bacon. Like Canadian bacon.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, just all weaved together. And it has to be weaved together with hockey sticks.
It's just gonna be like so horrifying because it's like, how did they make a bacon weave out of ham? Like sliced ham. Because that's basically that's all Canadian like bacon is.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just this giant undulating Shogothian wall.
Hell yeah.
That's how they keep the like people like from like jumping the border. They just get eaten by the wall.
Yep.
You have to get to the safe zone. Anyway, we're being stupid again.
We're awesome at that. I would say. I have a degree in being stupid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so I only have really one note about OSD09-H03.
Okay.
Which I kind of want to summarize to OSDog-Ho, which is the way that you would say it in lead speak.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So OSDog-Ho.
Wow. Okay.
The only note I have is about the model situation.
Yeah.
So there's a neck up physical model. Like I don't understand what it's trying to say with the constructed model. Whether or not it's saying like there is a physical bust, like a generic bust in the room, and then it's like overlaying something on it in like as a augmented reality thing to him, or if there's a TV and it's just like kind of building it in the background. Like I don't know how it's being displayed to the child. This
might have been an issue in phrasing because it probably shouldn't have said constructed. It should have said rendered because. The entire time, I assumed it was. Based on the information I was given, which was like computer subroutines, like mapping a texture onto the model, or onto a base model or something like that, or onto like that constructed thing. That was all simulation, like digital simulation. So, and it basically, like again, it might be because I have some leanings into animation.
Mm-hmm. As do I, kind of.
Yeah, where you when it refers to like putting like a texture onto like a base model and stuff like that, it's called mapping. Mm-hmm. So they mapped the face like from the photograph onto the base model of the human bust.
Yeah, but my entire problem is like it didn't really say how this information was being displayed to the child. Like
a webcam effect or webcam effect. It says to give, yeah, sorry.
It's a 1,280 by 700 image of the father. Was what was used to create the digital model.
Yeah, but again, for all we know, this could be using some super high-tech augmented reality situation where it's like actually displaying it in the physical world on a bus that's being animated, because it doesn't say what it is or isn't doing.
Yeah, it does.
It says it makes webcam reality.
Yeah, So it's you can assume like this. You can safely assume that through the description they're giving, that it is the kid is like watching
some
on
TV there,
a TV or a computer monitor. It even says at the end like the hard drive wears down. So like there was a hard drive. So it's computer simulation that the kid is watching or observing.
I guess I suppose I would just like a better description of the room he's in, because essentially all we have for the room is just there's a kid in some sort of room that he probably can't leave, and there's toys on the ground. That's all I know.
I found it.
Okay.
What'd you find?
These individual frames can be presented directly on the viewing screen.
Oh, it does say viewing screen?
Yep.
Then my problem is I was tired when I read it, because no, this wasn't because it was late at night, it's because it was early in the morning.
Today.
Yes. No, yesterday. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this done early, and I'll be way better, and I won't miss anything.
Yeah, you gotta do it in the in-between sometimes.
That cuts into Warframe. Sorry, I gotta be realistic. That cuts into really dangerous.
Moving on.
You can add that in if you want.
No.
Okay, it's fine.
I want the world to know my distinct.
Okay.
No.
But either way, I guess I glanced over that, so that's my fault.
Okay. I was like trying to dude, it explains everything perfectly fine.
I missed viewing screen, apparently.
Okay.
That's entirely my fuck up. So, let me summarize my notes then. I have no notes for this one. Aside from final thoughts, I suppose.
Alright. Nice segue. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Actually, like we said earlier, it was inspired by the Boing Boing article entitled DOD Wants Parent Bot. It's an interesting idea regarding creepy military programs and AI. If it's tied to Candle Cove in a deeper way, hinting to something military in Ichor Falls, like just add or like almost like conspiratorial kind of like level of like creepiness, like adding on to like the whole like haunted thing.
Honestly, it could be tied to literally anything in Ichor Falls, because any of these characters that are going through fucked up situations, they could be away from their family.
Too,
so,
but otherwise, like if it's not like that, I'm a little unsure as to how it matches the collection. Yes. It was silently like
Look at it.
All right, yeah. So like, I could I partially recommend this one, I guess, because if it has that deeper meaning, or like at least I feel like I saw a deeper meaning or a deeper hint at like the origin of Candle Cove story. But otherwise, to me this didn't really seem to fit the collection as a whole, because it's just take that or leave that. I don't know. I like the story idea. I just don't know how it applies to the collection. But Mikey, the sensory, you had something to say?
Yes. Well, we've been looking at this the wrong way.
Okay.
The father was actually deployed to Ichor Falls.
Oh my god! And never came back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he joined the SNTF.
Well, of course, yes. Yeah. So who's taking care of the kid then? He's like the European division of the SNTF or something?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, fuck it, why not?
Anyway, yeah, it is an interesting story. It's also interesting how rooted it is in reality based off of that article. So
I dare say it's probably one of the most, aside from possibly the next one that we're doing, it's probably one of the more mundane horror stories that Kris Straub has written. And I don't mean that in like a bad way or anything like that. I just mean like it's
just more grounded,
just because it is so grounded in a real life situation.
Yeah,
especially with nowadays and like the fear of like technology kind of going over, or like people using technology in semi-deplorable ways. Like for good, like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This kind of like it kind of comes to mind when I think of this kind of situation. Because again, like as the article said, those therapy bills are going to cost.
Yeah. So I give this a good 75+% recommendation.
Okay.
Well, for me, I don't know. It kind of, even though it's really short, it did seem like it was kind of drawing out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like specifically, just like
the meticulous details.
Yeah, like there's like it's kind of interesting to look into essentially the thought process of a computer to see all the shit it has to go through to answer a simple response,
and to realize that all those like meticulous details, like that page, like less than a page long, like content, probably only happened over the course of like a millisecond.
Yeah, pretty much.
In systems.
Yeah, but I didn't know what to expect with it. I didn't know whether or not it was going to be creepy or not. All I knew is it was going to be something technical with a title like OSDog-Ho.
Yeah.
Clearly it's going to be technical.
Well, I mean, OSDog-Ho is just so professional.
Yeah.
It's so technical.
It is, it really is.
Such a technical term.
Yes. But, I mean, it has possibility of connections to other Ichor Falls stories. It has possibilities without me having to go outlandish to bring the SNTF into Ichor Falls, so I can't hate it for that, you know. So, I just kind of, like, with most short stories, I kind of wish there was more, because the entirety of the story was essentially 10 seconds of dialogue.
Yeah.
So, it's really short, and I kind of wish there was more to see where it goes and where it came from and stuff like that. But it was still interesting enough, so I'll give it at least a partial recommendation.
Okay.
Because it's not too long of a read. As long as you can deal with the technical mumbo-jumbo and follow along and understand what's going on, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, I feel like there is a lot of technical mumbo-jumbo going on. Like, you're just like, just so many chains. But at the same time, like, it does, like, it almost, like, holds your hands, like step by step by step.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, like, just throwing word salad at you. Like, technical jargon word salad at you.
Pretty much.
It's going in.
And I would rather this than it just saying, like, it just simplifying it, like, after X amount of milliseconds, it responds with the answer, blah.
Yeah, because, like, yeah, this was more like, again, an exercise in getting into the head of a program and like the process of like it like trying to fool this child. Like it actually kind of like it's actually one of those sequences where like it's dissecting the magic of the situation, like the weird like magic. I just mean like it basically pulls the curtain back and shows you how it's fooling this child, or like why this is creepy, like why this child talking to his dad on the webcam is creepy. It's because the explanation is creepy. It's one of those things like if you can't like you either don't explain what the monster is for the horror effect of the unknown, or you do explain it in a horrifying way.
Yep.
And that's how you make good horror.
And because this isn't really explained either way, it's open to interpretation of how this is going on. Like, for all we know, this quote-unquote AI could be some demon that's possessed a machine that's going through all this to indoctrinate children, and it could go literally anywhere. Like
I said, like this, like to me, like I kind of saw this story, it could be like I think it kind of does say that it was like a government thing, but was to say that the government's not using like some kind of demonic.
I'm not even saying that. For all we know, the government could have. They could have evacuated this facility because there was some outbreak, and this thing is taken over and uses this machine for.
I know a lot of people. Yeah, sorry. I know a lot of people in the comments and like after they'd read this story. I think even when I first read it, I got the impression that the kid was actually also a computer or something like that, or was like was going to end up being some kind of entity that like it was basically trying to appeal to or something like that. Like, a lot of people got the impression that the kid was, like, something, so there was something up with the kid.
Really?
But, like, that was more, like, assumptions and, like, rather than insinuations.
I find that more far-fetched than me thinking that there's a physical bust that's, like, having a digital skin put on it.
Well, I think a lot of it is because, like, it leaves off with the server, the hard drive, like, whirring down. And so a lot of people, like, kind of insinuated that was actually the kid. So it was the AI tricking an AI. Like, an AI that thought it was a kid was being tricked by government AI to, like...
Or it's just worrying down because he shut off the Skype call.
No, exactly, yeah.
Shut his computer down.
That's exactly it, yeah.
The problem with that logic is that it doesn't say wind down.
Oh, what does it say?
It just says, somewhere in the room, a hard drive whirs.
Okay. See, like that's what a lot of people was like. Wait, so is this the kid side like actually like some kind of simulation as well? Because there's a hard drive whirring.
There's literally just a Dell computer just sitting there.
Yeah,
like that's what he's watching.
That's how he's watching. Yeah.
He's going over to YouTube now.
Yeah.
What I read
to watch authentic Rick and Mortis. Sorry.
Wow.
What I read in the comments was that essentially the dad said, "I love you," and then now the mother is going to be on the screen.
Oh God. That is even more fucked up. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of super fucked up.
Like it's processing new information kind of deal.
Yeah, or starting up a new process. Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, so like you could like take it like I do like the idea of it, and even if it isn't like some deeper hint or like to the lore of like Candle Cove or to the origin of Candle Cove, because for some reason I just like it's like what if it is like what like this is just like the latest version of what they tried to do earlier in the 70s and 80s with children with the subliminal messaging programs and stuff like that, because obviously the government's capable of doing it. They're doing it with this thing now, so like why not to say that like that's. And again, like it would add like an extra like layer of like connection to the story to be in the Visitor's Guide collection. But yeah, like that's fucked up, man. Like that, damn.
Yeah.
Wow. I really like that. So dark. All right. Anyway, so that was OSD09-H03.
Yes, it was.
OSD09-H03. And then I guess we'll move on to Aware. It is...
Alright, so, Aware. Essentially, there's a woman that's waking up from blacking out in a dark room with nothing moving. She's cold and numb from old sweat from her nightmares, I'm left to assume. And then at some point, she says, "Not again, not again." She thinks that her muscle... No. She says, "Not again, not again." That's what she's thinking as her muscles tense. She wills herself, quote-unquote, free of something. There's a sensation of electricity. There's cruel entanglement of thick black hairs that kind of like she's envisioning. Then an arc of light appears, quote-unquote, searing her. A scalpel slides across an area that's been poised for hours waiting for it. Her eyes open, and in that span, like less than a second has passed.
Okay.
And that's about it. So right after all of this, the end says that he specifically wrote it to be super vague.
Yeah, no, she did. Yeah,
so
he does, yeah.
It's open to interpretation. Yeah. This is just me taking extremely brief cliff notes so I could kind of remember the way it went.
Yeah.
Because everything that's laid out is very, it seems random and it's hard to get a feel for what's going on.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess we'll go into grammar inquisitions, and then we'll... Do you guys have... did you guys try and, like, answer his question at the end? Which was, like, he tried to make this, like, really, like, vague, and he was interested in what people actually thought was going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, for grammar inquisitions, I have none. Mikey, these sent you.
I also have none.
Gamer now?
I have none.
Cool. All right. I also only have...
Wait. Is this a run-on sentence? Potentially one.
Just hold on, audience.
It's like helicopter.
Yeah. Through the ceiling.
It's just a long sentence, so I'll be as quick as I can. She often thought it would be better to get stuck with the harsh glare all at once, but as it was, that brilliant scalpel slid across, exposing a deep, raw swath of nerve endings that had been absolutely poised for hours, waiting for this tiny, ragged, white line of pain.
Damn.
Yeah.
Pretty long.
It is.
Long-winded.
Yeah.
Alright, and then to my only main thought is literally what it says on my notes. So, he ends the story.
I wanted this to be really vague as far as what was happening, but I think the reader can figure it out way early. You tell me!
All right. Well, we're going to tell you. So, I have two things that I believe is going on. The first one, sleep paralysis.
He did it! Yay!
Can I guess the second one?
Sure.
Aliens?
No. Although that might work too. The second one, though, is she's being placed in an incinerator as they think she died, and she's now like awoken or is fully aware, but she can't move because she's in a corrugated box about to go into the incinerator because she's strapped down or like held down because of like rigor or like some kind of like bodily she can't move because she's been like strapped down for the incinerator and stuff like that, and she's been thrown in or placed into the cremator. That one's a little bit more like kind of have to pull at the like look at the story and like kind of like
you read all the comments and take their information.
No, I didn't at all. Actually, I completely like did not take a look at the comments at all for this. But yeah, my ideas was either it was sleep paralysis because it kind of matches sleep paralysis occasionally.
Everything does really.
I mean, not always, but
look over previous.
Yeah, well, that's you guys being assholes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But also, yeah, like either like she's like not like she's basically dead in quotes, but aware, like suddenly made aware of it, maybe because she's in Niagara Falls. She's come back. But they or actually the alien theory it sounds good too because like it could be like an abduction like thing. Mm-hmm. Like, and how the searing arcing light is actually just like one of the probes or something like that, burning her. So, yeah, that's my speculations. My ideas for that.
Alright. So mine basically was that this is either an android, a synthetic, or an alien waking up to being dissected.
Okay, so reverse abduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 60,000 seconds is the countdown for when reinforcements arrive.
Wow.
All right.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is set in like in Niagara Falls during the 2080s when the robot revolution happened, or when a renegade robot faction is being attacked or by a human insurgency.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally.
Totally down for that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Or would it be the 2070s? Because Antran was in the 2070s, as we've mentioned.
Yeah, it would have
previous.
to be
and in the 2080s was Fractal War, because like transhumanity, like weird transhumanist stuff and so on. So it was like somewhere in between 2070s and 2080s. I love how we created this little like this weird fucked up timeline of robots.
I know it's the best, right? For me, the way that I saw the story is it kind of sounds like it's a woman snapping in and out from anesthesia during an operation.
Ooh.
And the tensing of the flesh is literally like an anesthetic needle going in. And then the lights are the lights that the doctors can use.
Yeah.
And it's literally meaning when it says scalpel, it either means an actual scalpel or like a cutting laser. The thick, dark air hung over her supine form. Supine, laying down, facing up.
Yeah,
it's upside down prone.
I had to Google it because I was like, supine, is that like, is she a wolf?
Like lupine or whatever the fuck.
But then I looked at, oh no, that totally doesn't mean anything. It means reclining or like, down, like laying down.
Yeah, like prone is specifically face down, and supine is face up.
Yeah.
I'm going to be using that in my vernacular now.
God.
So then there was an anticipated excruciating tense of muscle fiber at the corners, pulling one against. And then at that point I'm like, at the corners of what? I don't really know what it means by corners. Like, is narrator woman just a sentient being square of flesh? Or something?
Or she's on a slab of something. Like a table.
It's saying that there's tensing, like, her muscles tense at the corners. What corners?
It could be like a
muscle fiber at the corners.
Muscle fiber at the corners.
Is it talking about, like, in this one section of flesh, like
at the far corners?
For example, if this is a situation where it is an anesthesia needle going in during operation, if it's going into, like, say, the arm, and then this is the shape of, I'm doing a visual, this is the shape of the bicep, like, arm, that the muscle piece is going into, when the needle goes in the corners of that, it tenses.
Yeah. Like, or
the corners of that one piece of muscle.
Or it could mean, like, at the far ends of her body, or, like, where her muscles, kind of like how the four corners of the Earth. Like, there is no four corners of the Earth. The Earth is a globe.
It's just a saying, though.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it might just be, like, a flavoring, like again, a vague description, like everything else in this story.
I don't know.
Like, he was going with the vaguest things.
If I was going to tell you to point at your corners, what would you do?
Shoulder, and like knees and knees, or like toes and toes.
Why?
Because those are the four corners. Those are the farthest corners of my body. I don't really. I guess if you're going to go that way,
you're pentagon.
Yeah, I guess
technically you'd
be a pentagram.
Yeah, there you go. Technically, you'd be like a star if you're counting the hand situation.
Or it could be like does it say the four corners or the far corners?
It just says corners.
Yeah. Okay, to the corners.
Either way,
yeah.
I didn't know what it meant, and it immediately made me think that this character is just some fucked up like square of flesh that's just alive.
She's just a Shoggoth.
Yeah, pretty much.
Again, we go back to the Shoggoth.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Or she's what? Band-Aid Girl from Super Meat Boy?
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's entirely possible. This could be Super Meat Boy Creepypasta.
So dark. So dark. Sorry.
Then I learned 2 words today. Because I also learned, I didn't actually learn how to pronounce this, striated?
Striated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Muscle tissue in which the contractical fibrils in the cells are aligned in parallel bundles. So their different regions form stripes visible in a microscope. Muscles of this type are attached to the skeleton by tendons and are under voluntary control.
Yep.
So it's essentially a piece of muscle that's all kind of lined.
Like musculature is all bands, basically. Like bands of flesh.
When I first read that, I thought that word said serrated. So I thought it was like, I don't know.
Adding on to the whole scalpel thing?
Yeah, like it was cut or, I don't know. Yeah, those are my 3 actual thoughts.
Okay.
On top of everything.
Rogan?
I think so.
Final thought.
Mikey.
I don't know if I recommend this or not. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know. Like it's an interesting writing experiment. It's not really a story, and it honestly could go either. It could fit in the collection or not. Like that seems to be my criteria. Like my criteria for this week's for like observing the story and taking notes and stuff like that seem to be that do they fit in the collection and like Ichor Falls as a whole or not.
Didn't last week's have a connection as well to each other?
Yeah, last week's had a connection with like in terms of like animation and like medium and stuff like that, and locomotion. Like it was all about like one was a camera, like an artifact, and then one was a conversation between a researcher who was like had found some new way of like animating something.
They're like both fucked up technology kind of deal,
or like two like tampered with like supernatural science or something like that. Whereas these ones are short stories that have to do with like 2 short stories that have to do with a military project, and then they're both kind of like a writing.
I can summarize for you.
Yeah,
they're both very vague short stories that you're unsure whether or not they fit in the Ichor Falls.
Exactly. Yeah, like the first one, like I found a reason. This one, it could be. It's a little bit more easier to slide into because there's not, but only because there's not really any defining like source anywhere else like in it. It's just kind of a vague writing experiment. Like in terms of trying to like make some creepy yet vague thing that's open to interpretation. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I recommend it or not. Like I guess I partially recommend it because I do like that writing experiment idea for it. But as a story or as like something for like Ichor Falls, I just don't really see why it's in the collection.
I know you're the cultist and everything, and you like everything, but if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's
I like part of it. I just don't like. I don't.
That sounds like a partial recommendation to me.
It is a partial recommendation. I
said
that.
I don't think you physically said that.
I did.
Did he say that?
I partially recommend as the cultist. I partially recommend it because it is an interesting writing experiment and it makes you think. but it doesn't really fit. Again, personally, it really doesn't fit the collection for Ichor Falls. Or maybe it does. I don't know, because my notes show I didn't really have a whole lot of hearsay of like what was going on aside from like what I thought it was.
The whole idea, though, so it's open into interpretation.
Yeah. So there's my hacky sacky, like wishy-washy recommendation. Okay, Mikey, the East is Evil. Please have a more definitive, decisive recommendation.
Alright. So this story, from what I got from the comments, is basically just somebody waking up.
Yeah.
That's literally it. So, going with that thought of logic, that's a lot of stuff to be aware of in the matter of a second, which leads me to believe the whole Android scenario.
Because they're processing information and such.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
so these ones are tied together.
Yeah, they are tied together. You got an Android, which is an artificial intelligence, and you have artificial intelligence of the previous one.
These are in the same SNTF facility. This is just right next door.
So much eye rolling.
So, yeah, I'm sort of on the same way. I give this a half recommendation.
Okay.
Because it's interesting to think about. You can get different interpretations because it is an experiment and he left it intentionally vague. And normally when you're writing, you want people to know what it is you're writing.
But that's not.
But then
the purpose
in
of the
this
story.
one,
it really legitimately is not the purpose of the story of this writing piece. This is that he wanted to make it as vague as possible because it was an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to see other people's what other people's opinions were of it, or what they saw in it.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to say I'm going to give it two types of recommendations. One being based on the story itself and it being included in Ichor Falls, and I'm going to say no.
Yeah,
because it is so vague to the point that it's hard to get a visual. Like, you have to think about it. And it doesn't really tell a proper story because of that. And because of the length of it. It doesn't give you time to tell a story. So all the other entries are stories that try to tell something. And you can read through it and everyone kind of gets the same thing. Because that is what is being told to the reader.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to not recommend it on that aspect. But I will recommend it as the writing experiment. But I just kind of wish, because the whole writing experiment idea is fun. And I could see if he did this as an experiment to see what the comments thought, and then to essentially get some fuel for this potential story. But I kind of wish it was actually continued into a proper story.
Yeah. I'm not. And don't quote me on this because I don't know what's in his head. I haven't talked to Kris Straub or anything like that. Although maybe I should ask him. Maybe I should actually try and get an answer from him. But when I feel because there have been a bunch of news stories have actually sprung up on the Ichor Falls website since the collection came out. Mm-hmm. But I think prior there was an original website or an older website version or an older version of the website before the collection came out that had just these stories. So I'm wondering if the reason why the collection is the way it is, the stories that are in it as it is because those were all the stories he had at that point.
Yeah.
And collected. Because at least two of them are actually not from him. They're actually from somebody else who submitted for the Ichor Falls universe. Mm-hmm. Or the Ichor Falls setting. Yeah. But, yeah, apparently since then they've got some new ones and they look pretty cool. Or I've been told from some people that they have some of the submitted ones are very creepy and interesting. So, but yeah, I think in terms of being in the collection, I feel like this one and the last one were in it just because they were the last. They were part of the original batch of stories he had written.
It's entirely possible.
And then he would just want to make a collection of them. Mm-hmm.
So. I don't mind the previous one being in here. It's just this one is so random and vague.
This one could be it's so vague and yet also so generalized that it doesn't even necessarily need to be Ichor Falls. It could be anywhere. It could have to do with anything.
Yeah.
Is the thing with that one.
Yeah.
I do agree that the other one, again, if you think about it a certain way, it does exist. It can exist in the Ichor Falls setting. It just, for me, it was like that weird, you have to be in a certain mindset for me to recommend it fully. Or recommend it for it.
I just think it personally it'd be more fun if he had this out and then after getting people's answers, then he posts another saying this is what the idea I actually had in mind, who got it right kind of deal. Like do it as a community sort of deal because I want to know what he actually thought.
The thing is, he probably didn't have a definitive answer. Probably
he was just writing down.
He literally just wrote this vague outline.
It's like some weird dream he had, and he's just kind of writing it down.
Or just again as a writing exercise to see what other people would come up with, from reading the description.
But is a writing exercise a story that tells something though?
Occasionally it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is basically a thinking piece. Like this, I don't think he had a definitive answer. Again, Kris Straub, if you've listened to this somehow, if you've somehow stumbled upon our podcast and are hearing this, I'm sorry for the pedanticness of it, but give us was this just supposed to be like a thinking piece, or was there an actual did you have something in mind that you just have been withholding? You don't even have to tell us. Just tell us exactly what you had in mind. Just what was it a definitive? Was there a definitive answer, or was it just a writing piece? Okay.
So a yes and no from me.
So partial, yes and no.
Yes.
So partial, essentially.
My partial's different than your partials, though.
Yeah, partial.
It's all different. Because his is partial, mine's half, yours is yes and no.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. So none of us can actually...
We're different people.
I know, right? That's weird.
It's almost like what the story was trying to do, which was get different opinions.
Yeah.
And to separate us.
Divide and conquer.
He's in the nitpick nook, so, I mean, that's something to hold over him this episode.
Is it?
Yes.
What do you mean to hold him over?
Well, because normally we're in the nitpick nook.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that has to do with
basically, we're free of him because he's stuck in the nook.
Oh, that's true.
Oh god, the bars! Why the bars? Get me out!
Yes! Finally! This is the first time he's been in the nook and we have not. This is the first time we've been able to spring our trap.
You bastards.
Wahahaha.
We all just get
fill the nook with gas. Wait, they're bars.
And then Mikey's just like, I'm a Starfield.
Yes. That was your plan all along to kill both of us. It's really evil.
Hurt? Bleh. Alright. That was this week's episode of Ichor Fall 2018. If you like what you heard, if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted.
I think I know what the title card's going to be.
Yeah, us just dying.
You imprisoned me out of prison. What was done?
Probably.
Anyways, continue.
We're on Q6, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can check out the title cards for each episode on crazonstudios.tumblr.com or crazon.deviantart.com or on the YouTube channel, Al Dente Rigor Mortis, where you can check out the videos of each episode. You can contact us on Twitter. Mikey's at the E stands for Evil. I'm at Review Cultist. Gamer is at the Gamer in yellow without the W because Twitter hates him now.
Everyone fucking hates me when it comes to my name.
14 letters.
It's such a weird number to stop on. Why?
You think it would be 15?
I know it's like, whatever. It's an odd number, but it's
an even number, but it's an odd number.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. You can also leave us emails at aldenterigormortis@gmail.com. That's ALDNTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like to discuss on the show. And if you'd like to help support the show, go to Patreon. You can check out Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and we have backer tiers, $2 and $5, but any little bit helps. And you get extra episodes, early access. Special episodes include Al Dente Real Talk, where we take a look at movies that we feel either have a connection to creepypastas or have the similar theming or topic as some creepypastas that we've done, and we basically just like watch them and like comment on them like we do the show. And then we have actual play Rigor Mortis, which is sometimes we'll run tabletop games and record the sessions, and they are usually creepy pasta themed. And our other show that doesn't have anything to do with me at all includes,
thankfully, Al Dente Reloaded at the $5 tier, where Mikey and I go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly pastas that the cultist and the doctor have done in the past, and see what our thoughts are on them. And then Al Dente Revelations at the $2 tier, where Mikey and I, again, continue those thoughts after listening to the old episodes that the cultist and the doctor did, and possibly have a mind-breaking revelation while doing so.
All right. And for those of you that are already supporting us, the patrons, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And for our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because, well, without your listenership, we really wouldn't have a show, and without your stories, we definitely wouldn't have a show. And I wouldn't have a form of entertainment to read. Of spooky, spooky entertainment. So thank you. And until next time, I've been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis, Ichor Fall 2018. Sleep well. OSD09-Das. No, Das. Das ass. No. Sorry. Hang on.